Good afternoon, Redwall survivor. Foxpen here, gearing up for another top 30 app review for Mossflower Odyssey for the Beasts of the Creator. We're going to look at the second category of competitors here, the beast who makes things. This is a pretty exciting category because, specific crafts beasts can always come in handy in a gladiator type arena. A lot of potential for these characters. I'm going to start, of course, with Aldridge Moor. He's a 38-year-old Stoat, and already he's gaining a little chat in the review forums because Aldridge's author has chosen to write in first person. This is fine. There's always one app that's written in first person. I don't find it particularly gimmicky. However, I do have to say this 750 word application that you have is to demonstrate your writing ability and how you're going to write in the competition. You're not going to write in the competition in first person perspective like that. None of the other competitors are. And if you decide to go off and do a first-person thing anyway, then it becomes gimmicky, and it interrupts the flow of the story. So Aldridge, if you get in, you're going to have to change that. I'm sorry, buddy, that's just the way it goes. But you're demonstrating how you can write, and it is really nice. This app is one of my favorites, actually, but will your writing skills of first person translate as effectively into third person perspective? Food for thought. Once again, I have nothing against first person perspectives, but that will change, and you've kind of weakened yourself right off the bat by not writing how you'd write in the competition. Anyway, we're going to get to reading the app here. So hold on tight, and let's start with the first beast of the beast who makes things. Sun's a scant paw breath from touching the horizon. The summer day is coming to a close. Clouds are streaked in the dark gray against a vivid blue and red mess of a sky, whirling along in the wind of the birds. The scent of smoked fish wafts over my workshop. I remember the first time I caught the smell on the wind and how I'd become so distracted that my knife had slipped and cut my paw. Medic Era had tended to me that day, despite the misgivings of the rest of the village. That phrase came to define her. When the sun touches the horizon, she'll be the one to come and tell me that dinner's ready. A habit left over from the time when the others didn't trust me to eat at the same fire, let alone live nearby. Era's daughter is 8 seasons too young for a militia-grade longbow, so I'm making something easier. You responds to even the lightest touch, and will help her build up the strength in her arms. She likes bluebells. A trip to the blacksmith for a branding tool, and a trip to the dyer's for just a tiny bit of blue, and now a small bluebell motif rests at the tip of the bow, and a pawful of sky blue hempen cord in my belt pouch. It is the work of a few moments to bind the cord around the handle and apply a little wax. A few more moments, and the bow is tucked away behind the tarpaulin divider that separates my bed from my work area. As I close the divider, my eye falls on one of the black branded patterns on the wooden beams of my home. 10 seasons it had taken, until one day the beasts of the village came to me and offered to build me a home. I was quite certain they could have lasted 20 seasons more had it not been for Medic Era's earnestness and trust. In what has become a little ritual, I remember each mark and the beast who put it there. A pestle and mortar with the mint leaf at their base. The mark of Apothecary Ennis, who had been one of the first beasts to trust Era and her trust in me. A knife and a loaf, old Baker Cricken, passed away 4 seasons hence and succeeded by her son. A fire and a hammer, blacksmith Ulrich, foul of temper but an outstanding craftspiece. A bandaged paw, Medic Era. I can hear her stomping down the path toward my house. She has the paw steps of a badger, which for a mouse is quite impressive. I step back out into the rapidly darkening twilight, push my door closed behind me, nod to her in greeting. Your daughter's bow is ready, Medic, I say. Her smile doubles in intensity. Thank you again, and so much. Shall I bring it tomorrow? Oh, smoked fish and pea soup and bread, by the way. I sniff at the air. And Brax got to the pepper again? Anytime tomorrow. I'm not going out for more wood than for a few days yet. She chuckles. He's only allowed to do that in his own bowl now. Don't worry. We proceed. She tells me of how young Cricken nearly burnt down the bakery again, of how blacksmith Ulrich shouted at him until he cried, of how Hunter Tanner had been the one to catch tonight's fish, with one of my own bows, no less. I feel the old swell of pride in my chest, of knowing that I, too, have a use, that I, too, am needed. The town square is where everyone sits for the evening meal. Woodbeast Brevin worked for a full season to make it what it is today, a huge covered space with 4 cooking fire pits, 20 large tables, 40 large benches, all contained within the mark walls, which are branded with every townsbeast's mark, even my own. I remember the signing with exquisite detail. Ulrich's gruff nod as he passed me the white-hot metal, the scented char as I carved a simple bow and feather pattern into the wall, contained in a circle of twine. The applause, thin at first but growing in strength as more and more of the beasts around me finally decided I was one of them. I take my seat, and the villagers start to pass the food around. Hunter Tanner nods to me from the next bench along. I belong. So there you have it. Aldridge, Moor. This is a beautifully written app. The very first 2 sentences had me hooked on this app. The whirling along in the wind of the birds is particularly striking prose. It's poetic without being flowery. So Aldridge has a very good command of descriptive English. The whole app doesn't feel cluttered. It's actually very organized and very well laid out. I know who this character is. I know exactly what he wants out of life and how he got to where he is now. The fact that he actually has what he wants, acceptance and respect, and he feels like he has a place to belong now, speaks volumes about this character. And right off the bat, though, we know it's all going to get taken away from him. Either he's going to get captured as a slave, or he's going to have to volunteer, or something's going to happen where he's going to wind up in that gladiator pit in the crater. So he's got a lot to lose, and it'll be interesting to see this app. We have him, the character Aldridge, we have him now. We know him now from this app. But what's he going to be like once he's in the crater? So there's a lot to think about with this character. Definitely a lot to think about. You know, he's hard. He must be hardworking. He must be a hard worker. He has to break down the racial barriers of Redwall. You know, to feel like he belongs amongst those who aren't even of his own kind. There's something there too. Something that we're not immediately told in the app. So there's this is a character of layers, and I'm very curious to see what happens with him. Also, to once again remark on the first person shtick with this app, we'll just say, I'm not worried. The skill of the writing here, even though it's in first person, is probably going to translate to third person. So once again, I'm not really worried about that. It'll just be a change in style. That's all. So congratulations, Aldridge, on getting into the top 30. Congratulations. Maybe we'll see you soon. So next up in the category The Beast Who Makes Things, we have Strathcomb Piccadilly, a 32-year-old mole. Burly. Moles are always fun. You don't see them a lot, though, and when you do, they tend not to have very heavy, thick accents. But Strathcomb does. A crowd of dusty moles gathered tightly in a lumpy grey circle. Strathcomb Piccadilly stood at the centre, a full head taller than his peers, presenting a shiny new pickaxe. Choruses of oohs and ahs rumbled through the secondary tunnel as the gleaming tool reflected yellow lantern light. Strath turned the instrument in his heavy paws as he explained the modifications. I've added a steel casing to the top of the handle, and keys will hold it tight. He spun the pick in a circle. It be rightly balanced and weighted for maximum impact. The crowd of moles split at a gesture, and Strathcomb slammed the tool into the earth with a satisfying thud. A hail of cheers erupted around him. "He be a great genius, brr," a mole named Darwell commented. "Be the head steel too, Strathcomb." "You're hers," Strath confirmed with a note of pride. "It'll last you a lifetime." "Right then, I'll be getting 3, Darwell announced. 3? Strath looked confused. "You're one for I, one for ye missus, and one for each child." The moles all laughed heartily. One miner reached down to pick up the prototype, but had trouble lifting it. "Strath, be you making a girdly anchor or an axe?" he teased. The burly-shouldered smith scratched at his thick, velvety neck. "Brrr, I suppose I'd better make a lighter version." A loud steam whistle sounded, and all the miners hurried out to the main portal where the foremole stood high up on a metal walkway just outside the big boss's office. "Brrr! Attention, all worker bees. It's been passed on to I to let ye all know wages have been trimmed back due to new policy." The moles below gaped with disbelief. "Again? Boy, how much?" "It don't matter how much, Cobb, as it's already being impoverished." General growls and grunts of agreement filled the portal. "Brr, HOE diggers will be earning 6 coppers a day, no more," the foremole stated. Outrage took hold of the crowd of moles, and the grumbling amped to a roar. Several miners began shaking their tools threateningly, and a chunk of rock bounced off the railing with a loud clang. The foremole jumped back in alarm. "Now hold up, ye good beasts," Strathcomb stepped forward, holding up a huge paw. "I'm right to take Ussen's frustration on ye messenger. Let I speak to her throw." The foremole, grateful for the intervention, let him approach the business badger's office without protest. Earthrow looked up at Strath as he pushed through the door. "Piccadilly, what can I do for you?" Strathcomb jabbed a thumbclaw at the outside. "Begging your pardon, sir, but you can't be cutting wages again. Nobody's can living off of 6 coppers a day. I'm having families to support." The badger leaned back in his oversized chair, steepling his long claws. "I think you misunderstand. Your wages aren't being cut, Piccadilly. Just the diggers." He made an off-paw gesture. "Those who are unhappy with the rate can quit. They're not indentured, after all." "They might as well be. Mightn't be all they know, sir." "Then they'll adapt, won't they?" The badger motioned for Strath to leave. A growl rose from deep in Strath's chest. "Mayhaps they won't." Earthrow glared coolly at the oversized mole. "I have a list 30 beasts long, just waiting for openings. You're a skilled smith, Piccadilly, but even you can be replaced. Go back to your forge." Strathcomb walked out of the musty office onto the grid walkway. He looked out across the crowd of his kin, their pink noses raised hopefully toward him. He leaned forward then, paws braced against the railings. "Us molars ain't prone to violence," he began. "We'm beasts what likes peace." The miners heard and burred their gloomy dissent. "But there be times," Strath continued, "when ussens be threatened." The crowd grew attentively silent. "And in times like that, us molars be a-sticking together." Several whoops broke the silence. "And when we be united, ussens can move gurtling mountains, by Ogie. And that bain't no exaggeration." A raucous cheer arose. "Earthrow mining ain't nothing without us molars. And it be a high time it be a learning that there fact." As enthused cries reverberated the walls, the foremost slipped silently back into Earthrow's office, wincing apologetically. The boss badger glared hatefully at the only mole left in his claws. "Mark my words, Piccadilly will pay for this." So there's Strathcomb Piccadilly. He's a mole. Oh boy, is he ever. Burroy. That was a lot of fun to read the accent. Yeah, accents are hard. Luckily in Redwall they're phonetic, so they're you can get away with things, broken rules, because there really aren't none that you just gotta follow. Strathcomb he's a big mole, which is good in the crater probably. He's also really strong. He can lift his invention, his new pickaxe, when others of his kind struggle to do that. He's also really, really moral. His moral convictions are very powerful, and they look to be a very strong guiding force in his life. Like, he doesn't even hesitate to jump towards striking at the company. I mean, yeah, if you're going to strike over something, like diminished wages like that is definitely something to strike over. Excuse me. But, yeah, the character, I don't know, like the moment he gets to the crater, what's going to happen when you have to kill a beast or you have to do something unsavory? Are you going to let your moral convictions drive you to death, or are you going to adapt? And how would you adapt? So this character, he doesn't really, I don't know, he doesn't pop to me, more so than, like, just the theories concerning what he could do strike me as more interesting. It was an okay app, definitely some good writing, definitely a good handle on the mole speech. So, well done, Strathcomb. Welcome to the top 30. Good luck to you. So that is it for the Beast Who Makes Things. There were only 2 applications accepted into the top 30 for this. And I hope to review things, maybe 2 categories a day if I have the time. We'll see. The next category, I think, shall be the Silly Beast. So, I'll see everybody there. Have a great evening. Foxpen out.